Just before Veterans Day, Wyoming Chronicle visits with Native American veterans who still call the Wind River Indian Reservation their home. We'll ask the veterans about their service and how it's impacted their lives back on the Wind River Indian Reservation. Next on Wyoming Chronicle.
Well, I'm John Watt. I served at the U.S. Army from 1965 to 67, and I was a draftee. Only thing I remember is probably still in my mind is probably going through the infiltration course. You know, we were firing live rounds over there while you're crawling into this infiltration course, and they're firing live rounds over the top of you. And I went to basic with guys from around this area, you know, and mostly from Wyoming. Yeah, I remember some of those guys were from Cheyenne, Rollins, Riverton, and we kind of all went down together, and we all got separated after basic training was over with. So,
was it physically tough?
It was, yeah, because you had to go through not infiltration, but through the physical ed course, you know, running, going through the crossbars and stuff like that. And the only thing that stands out is those 40-yard crawls through sand. You had to do that. So, but other than that, it was just kind of a blur. I guess it's been so long ago. You know, like going out to the rifle range and stuff like that, and doing live fire and things like that. But
what did you know about what was going on in the world then? Did you know what was happening?
Well, I knew when I was in school, when I was in college, I knew when Kennedy got assassinated. I was in school at that time, and I kind of thought something was going to be coming out of that, and came back and just kind of goofed around for a while and got drafted. That's when I went to the military then.
So after basic training, did you come home for a little bit?
Just for a little bit, and then I ended up in Alabama for
And what happened when you landed there?
It was hot. It was hot and humid, and different climate, different kind of people there, and you know, just the whole communities were different because you're used to the areas here, but down there everything is kind of swampy and hot, humid. And I went down there with another guy from Sundance, Wyoming, and he was a good friend of mine. We kind of ended up down there together. So,
was it as physically demanding?
What?
Was it as physically demanding?
There was a lot of reading and hands-on training on helicopters. So we had to learn how to maintain them and all that. So, and we knew once you were into the maintenance as far as helicopters where you're going to end up, and we knew we were going to all end up in Vietnam at some time. Well, then I came home for just a little bit, and then I shipped out to Vietnam and flew out of San Francisco, Travis Air Force Base.
What did your family tell you before you left?
Well, they just said all you can do is take care of yourself, and you know, and remember, you know, your traditional ways as far as praying and things like that. Yeah, so you have to keep that in mind all the time because of. See, I was brought up with my grandparents who were very traditional, so you have to kind of maintain that. You know, keep that thought in your mind that someone's out, you know, watching over you, which is very true, I think. And my unit, I think there was only one other Native American Indian kid in there, and he was from, I think he was from Northern Cheyenne, but he was in the maintenance area. But other than that, a majority of our company was probably either colored or other nationalities, you know, non-Indian, those guys. I was about the only Indian in our unit as far as the helicopter units. So it's kind of a shock because you're not used to the weather, and it's really humid, and especially down where we were in Vongtao, it was just like a resort city. That's what the French used it for. But they had a big airfield down here, and that's where we were stationed, right at the airfield. So we were there for a short time, and a lot of us ended up in Benoit. That's where our main camp was, because that's where all the maintenance and everything was done on the helicopters there. And we were assigned to the 173rd Airborne. We flew support for the 173rd Airborne Brigade. Well, we were out in the field just as much as the infantry was. When they'd go out in the field, we were out there with them flying support, and we lived out there just like they did. So, but we flew back and forth to pick up supplies, such as ammunition, water, things like that, to fly back into them. So we flew everything, from ice cream to prisoners to whatever, And but it was made you grow up. You mature quick, especially when you take your first lift, when you're dropping troops off and you're receiving fire from the ground. And it kind of sobers you up a little bit, because someone's out to do something to you. So, but after a while, it just becomes routine when you do it enough times. So,
What was it like to transport a prisoner?
Oh, they normally had a escort with them who watched them, but we had to keep an eye on them too once they got them off the chopper and everything. So,
Where did you take them?
we'd take them to wherever they were assigned to take them to, like their camp somewhere, and we just fly them there, and they took over the rest to wherever they were going. And we flew some wounded, and we did all kinds of stuff, dropping off chainsaws to infantry units who were deep in the jungles where you couldn't really land, so you had to drop them down with ropes and everything. So it was, there was something always happening different.
Did you ever take direct fire?
Yeah, we sure did, yeah.
Did you?
You expect that when you do take the troops in the lift. So you're going to get ground fire, no matter where you go. And nighttime missions are just as bad, because you see tracers and all that. So it's kind of sobering thought to see all that, and it makes you wonder, am I going to be around tomorrow? Stuff like that. So
Did you ever think you weren't going to be?
Well, I just kind of thought that you got to think positive all the time, and we've had an incident where we were flying a formation, and something happened to one of the choppers. They had a problem with their rotor. Something exploded up there that flipped over the top of the flight and crashed into the jungle. All you could see was a big orange ball when they hit, and killed everybody that was in there. And I knew some of those guys. So, but you just got to continue with what you're supposed to be doing. So you do all kinds of things. We fly out captured weapons, and things like that. And take people out on what they call long-range patrols. You go drop them off to the middle of nowhere, and you got to, once they holler for help, you got to go pick them up, regardless where they are. And that's a different experience, because you start hovering down into those jungles. It's dark down here, and the elephant grass is so tall, but you got to get them into the ship to rescue them, basically. So we did that a few times too. So I really didn't know what was happening here until we got back. And even here in the city of Riverton, we were getting harassed because of the Vietnam War. And some of the guys I served with, later on, they were being called baby killers and all this stuff. And what really bothered me was a lot of those people, to this day, they still bother me, is the people who ran off to Canada and stayed out of the draft and all that, and yet they come back saying that, they're violating my rights. What rights? You burned your draft card and you left. What rights are you talking about? It still bothers me today to hear that, even with the things happening right now, because everybody's so narrow-minded, and they're all victims. To my mind, everybody's a victim, and And with that war, it was just something that it was more of a political war than anything, because there were things we couldn't do that we should have done, you know. And more or less it was kind of dictated from D.C. what we could do with Congress and all that. And so it was, I mean, the military really had their hands tied, I thought, because they couldn't do a lot of things.
How frustrating was that for you during your service?
It's frustrating because you're running to a lot of different things that you could have done something about, but you know, you couldn't fire this, you couldn't do that, you know, and it really, it cost a lot of lives, I thought. So that's just my thought, because the guys from here who went, a lot of them were subjected to a lot of different things when they got back too. And my brother was there, my brother-in-law was there. I got a couple, 3 or 4 good friends who were there. And from the reservation, there was a lot of us who were in Vietnam, different branches and different areas. So, but when you got back here, you know, you had even your own tribal people saying things about you, you know, just because they didn't go, they didn't know what it was about, but they were just listening to what they heard on TV and things like that. And so they made a lot of comments that they didn't know anything about. So
That had to hurt.
it does, but you just learn to ignore it and just go on with your life, because, you know, it's over with. It happened in the past. I mean, you can't go back and change that. So.
My name's Tony Aragon. I served in the Marine Corps in 1951 and 1952. I was at an Indian school in South Dakota, and I don't really remember the year there. I was a senior there. A bunch of the guys got together and joined up. There were 16 of us started, but 6 of us only went on. So then they shipped us to, I believe it was Omaha, put us on a train, sent us to California, Camp Pendleton, or San Diego boot camp. A lot of hollering and moving people around, marching us around here and there, giving us uniforms. And then they started doing all their stuff, put us in to get us used to tear gas. You had to run to the door and take your mask off and give us your name and serial number, which was hard to remember then.
What did you know about the military before then?
Nothing, only what I seen in the newspaper. It said, join with your friends and serve with your friends. But as soon as we got there, we were all split up. Boot camp was around 6 weeks, maybe longer. I don't quite remember. But it was long enough to wish you hadn't joined.
Did you wish you hadn't joined?
Well, it makes you think of home. You're getting up certain times, going to bed at certain times, getting cussed out every once in a while.
Did you miss home already? Did you?
Well, I was used to being away from home. I was boarding school. I was in St. Stephen's Mission. So I was kind of used to being away from home. It wasn't very long after that they put us on board a ship in San Diego and sent us over. It took us 12 days across the ocean, I know that.
Where were you going?
We went to Japan first. And then from Japan, we went to Busan, Korea. That was on the very tip of the peninsula. And from there, we stayed in tents till they give us what outfit we was going to be in. And then they put us on the airplane and flew us up there. So, I don't know, I never even thought about war or anything. It was still kind of a game to me until we got there, and then it was different. When we landed up there, they unloaded us. We didn't waste no time getting out of there and trying to get behind something. But then they put you in a company that they wanted you to be in. I don't know how they ever figured that out. Seemed like they took the smallest guy and made him pack all the heavy stuff.
Hopefully you weren't the smallest guy in your unit.
Well, that's just about, I guess. And I was lucky to get put into called it ammunition company. They brought in ammo and we stacked it, explosives, and if they needed it on the line, we had to keep them in explosives and ammunition and, I don't know, different kinds of explosives.
What was your understanding of what America was trying to do at that time?
I couldn't really answer that, I don't believe. Because I never paid much attention to what was going on, just that they needed volunteers and guys to join the service. That's about what I knew about it.
How close did you get to combat?
About from here to that wall over there, I guess.
What was that like for you?
Well, to me it was still kind of a game until the dirt started flying, then I knew everything was serious. But I was lucky to get in one outfit that at least we got a good warm meal every day. But it's whenever they needed anything like that, explosions and stuff, we had to take it to them.
What did your family and your friends think about your service?
I don't know if they even knew I was gone. Because I left right from school. Never did go home till it was all over with.
And did you know that you were signing up for the military?
Heck no, they're not going to tell you anything like that. No, they didn't.
So after you signed that paper, what happened?
Well, Uncle Herman came and told us, I wasn't alone, there was a lot of others. He said, you boys be ready tomorrow, put on the best clothes you got, and we're going to take you to Lander. And I knew one woman was one of them. And later on I found out her name was Helen Petersdorf. Anyway, next day we dressed up. Grandma gave me a bath and Grandpa did all this other stuff. And they took us to Lander on a pickup. We got to Lander and we went upstairs at the old post office. And they told us we were going to Denver. And Uncle Sam wants to talk to you in Denver. We don't know who Uncle Sam was, but yeah, we want to talk to Uncle Sam. Well, it wasn't exactly a trickery so they can get us in there. It's just, we don't know yet. We had come from poor schools, real poor schools. We got down to Denver and I remember stopping, letting us off at the coffee shop, great big pretty building. Joe Awful Coffee, I remember that word. And they gave us coffee and donuts. And then they gave us 4 donuts apiece. Then after we ate, then they put us on a bus. It was an Air Force bus, I guess. And then they took us to another place in Denver. So we did what they wanted us to do, but we didn't go home. They put us on this bus and they took us to the airport, and it was raining. And we got on an airplane, and we flew from Denver to Albuquerque, nonstop. And then from Albuquerque, they flew us to Phoenix. And then from Phoenix, we got on a bigger plane, and they flew us to San Diego, California. And we caught hell next day.
What happened?
Oh, man. The Marines got hold of us. Cussed us out, called us down, everything else.
What did you think?
Boy, I said, this is something different. I don't know what the hell's going on. I really didn't know what was going on.
And you didn't know what was in store then?
No, because they didn't tell us anything.
But by then you knew you were in the military?
I knew I was in the military, but I didn't know where. I mean, what it was about. Well, they treated us bad. They knocked us down and called us down. A few words like that, and they said, "You're not at home anymore. If you want to cry for your mother, I'm your mother. If you want to call for daddy, if you're not a bastard, I'm your daddy." And all that BS. We were in a battleship. I don't remember the Marquis or something like that. And the boat, we felt the boat was slowing up. They told us, well, tomorrow, he said, you see the island? It's an island. He said, there's a battlefield and they're still alive. You either get in there alive and come back alive, or get yourself killed in there.
Did you know who you were fighting, Mark?
Japanese.
Did you know that?
I didn't know that, but I killed them. I had a squad of my own, 29 of us. When I made it, there were Japanese in there. There was some holes in there. And in there was boxes about that size. And it said United States ammunition. And by those boxes there were rifles made in the United States. #1, shells and artillery. So, the Japanese got hold of our stuff during the Second World War. That's what happened. After that, I didn't care. I didn't care what I was going to do with a knife or a rifle or a machine gun. I was ready to go at any time anybody wanted.
Because you wanted to survive.
Yeah. And I survived. Then they told us we were going to come home.
What did people say to you when you got home?
Nothing.
Did they know what you'd been through?
My grandfolks were still living. They're the ones that raised me. I had real parents yet, but my grandfolks didn't have any boys in their family. And my grandmother was a warrior. And she adopted me right there at the birth. And she's the one that raised me and took care of me, inherited everything she had when she passed away. And she's the one that told me what my new name was and this jacket. Well, these are new, but I got the old one.
What do you think about your service, Mark? What do you feel? Are you proud of your service? You're not proud of your service?
I don't even go to these parades that they put on over here. We didn't have the welcome that we supposed to have had, I guess, because the Indians don't do that. So I didn't mind. But nowadays got a big hurrah and everything else. That's all right if they want it that way. People don't understand when you're in a war. Oh my God, you lose your buddies, your secret buddies. You help them survive. You help them drag them out of the way. Call for corpsmen. And finally they come, and it's your turn to leave. I don't know him, but I know that he's got parents. And I know he'll be safe, I hope.